Welcome to Untethered to Rooted, a podcast that brings you a collection of stories around grief, healing, and identity. Hear from everyday people how grief and loss shape their identity and how their identity shapes the way they heal and process grief. I'm your host, Daugherty, a licensed psychotherapist with extensive experience dealing with grief, both personally and professionally. And if you want to hear stories with gems and practical tools for healing, stay tuned for more. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Untethered to Rooted. Today, we'll be exploring what it means to grieve multiple versions of a person while they are still alive and the anticipatory, ambiguous, and compounded grief around that. We've spoken before on this podcast about anticipatory grief, and we've defined it as all these feelings of grief that occur before an impending loss. And ambiguous losses are those that are just unclear or unconfirmed and don't always have closure, finality, or some sort of like clear validation. So sometimes a person may be physically absent, but they're psychologically present, or vice versa. So they're just sort of ambiguous losses that can occur. For our guest, it was her dad who had some initial health conditions that increasingly became more complex health conditions. And there was a short period of time where I guess was caregiving, but most of her caregiving was from afar over a decade and deciding how much and what her care could realistically look like. Our guest is Susana Baker, and she's had to navigate multiple complex conversations with her family members. And we'll share today about her grief that she's experienced really for both of her parents, as she also watched her mother take on just different roles as the primary caregiver, while she was also helping to support with caregiving from afar, and watching her mom also navigate different various identities while she was navigating her own identities. Susana plans to share about her father's death also and grieving experiences he won't get to experience in the future. And with that, there's sort of this expression of cumulative or compounded grief that we talked about. It's this multiple losses that happen in a short period of time, and there's no time to really process one before the next one happens. So there's more that Susana definitely wants to share, and I want to introduce her. Her bio here is that Susana Baker is a lifelong creative and the founder of Untangling Ideas, a values-led marketing agency providing small businesses and organizations with award-winning brand strategy, messaging, and web design. A proud eldest daughter of an immigrant, she's Colombian-American, fully bilingual, and now based in Richmond, Virginia, with her rescue dachshund, Lucy, where she's become an enthusiastic amateur potter. So many different identities of Susana. Susana, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. And with that, I actually am wondering, I'd love for you to share just about yourself. What are some identities that are important to you, just to socially position you, as you've already done in your bio, but maybe you could help us out even more.
One of my favorite identities is Dana Daugherty's brand strategist and web designer. Not to toot my own horn, but Untethered to Rooted is cute.
And Susana's pretty great, pretty amazing.
So my other identities are humble, modest. No, I'm just kidding. No, but we've been working together for how long now?
Definitely the pandemic.
Start? Like yeah.
2021.
I was about to say, it's been like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Woof, time flies.
I know. What is time?
I know. So like, you knew me before and after my dad died.
Yeah, it's true.
So we've been talking about this for a while. So this is a conversation a long time in the works. Different identities. So yes, my mom is Colombian. My dad was from Tennessee. He was like a farm boy. So he used to jokingly say that we were Colombian rednecks, my brother and I. We got redneck from him and Colombian from my mom. But yeah, fully bilingual, eldest daughter of an immigrant. I have one younger brother. I would say that I am an overthinking, overachiever. I also was diagnosed with OCD at 10, so that is another layer of identity. I am a small business owner. I'm a creative, like layered on there. I'm now a proud auntie.
Oh,
So my nephew is turning 2 in April. So like
Yeah.
that is an identity I have recently added that I am thrilled about.
Mm.
Yeah, and I don't know, part of the fun thing about identities is like I've realized that they don't have to add up to 100,
No.
like 100% of who we are.
Yeah.
They're just cumulative, which is really nice.
Yeah. I love how you describe that. That's true. It's like you keep understanding new parts of your identity, or you acquire new identities too.
I I thought about it the first time when I was thinking about like, oh, well, I'm like half American, half Colombian. And I was like, but I've never felt half Colombian. Like I feel fully Colombian, even though
Mm-hmm.
like it only comes from one side
Mm-hmm.
because so much of it is language and culture and yeah, there's part of where you grew up. And so realizing like, oh, I can be fully two things.
Mm-hmm.
Like one doesn't have to take away from another. So I'm realizing that that applies to all of my identities.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Good point. Absolutely. Wow. Thanks for sharing all those different pieces of yourself. I'm sure there are more pieces of your identity that will come out
They'll come up. There's a
as
million.
we talk today. Yeah. And, as we get into it, I'm wondering like, what's your connection with this topic today? Obviously I kind of introed you in with just experiencing multiple forms of grief, but yeah, what in your own words, how would you say you're connected to this topic today?
Gosh, I really think that it's about learning through my own experiences, including but not limited to my experience with my dad,
Mm,
that everything that I've been taught about grief and that everything that society teaches us about grief is so simplistic and
mm,
mostly wrong.
yeah.
And so, in my navigation of different types of grief throughout my life, it's been about just having to figure it out on my own. Like, what is grief actually? What is quote unquote allowed? Letting go of what I think I should be feeling or what the process should be like. And just going along for the ride because that's really what it is.
Yeah. 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 I want to get deeper into that. What do you feel like you've been taught by society that's maybe not totally right about grief? And what do you feel like you've kind of
Oh my gosh,
discovered?
what is that thing that they say about like the phases of grief or whatever?
Oh,
The stages of grief. I was like,
yeah.
that's not
Debunked.
real.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like, there's no stages. It just happens. Like, be
Yeah.
years later, and I'll be like, I'm sobbing
Yeah.
because something like, oh my gosh, a couple weeks ago, a band that I saw open for somebody at a concert released a cover of like my parents' favorite song.
Oh.
It was Leaving on a Jet Plane by John Denver because my dad was always traveling, especially early when they got married. So like that song
Oh.
came out around that time and so they were always like playing it or singing it to each other and like that was their song. And so a cover came out and I was like, this is so cool. Like I can't wait to listen to it. And it was beautiful. Like I really enjoyed the song. And as the song was finishing, I was in the car and I was like, oh my God, I'm not okay.
Mm.
And I was not okay for like the entire rest of the day because it really like stirred up something in me that I was
Wow.
not expecting. And that, like I said, that was recently. Like
Mm.
it's been 2 years. Yeah, it'll be 2 years a little later this month since my dad
Mm.
passed. So I think just the awareness that you don't get over it.
Mm.
Time
Yeah.
doesn't heal all wounds.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
changes. And
Mm.
it sneaks up on you when you least expect it.
Hmm.
And some days it'll knock you over, and some days it'll just make you smile, and some days it'll just make you have a moment of like, like remembering, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But there's different triggers for it
Yep.
that we can not control. Like, they
Yeah.
just.
Completely.
happen. So I think the timeline of it is something that I was like, that's not real. And then the other thing that I realize is not helpful from what society teaches us about grief is how to support others in their grief.
Totally.
And I
Agree.
realized that, like, the amount of people throughout my life were like, oh, I didn't reach out because I didn't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to bother you. I didn't want to make you feel worse. Whereas, like, the people that were like, if you're up to it, if you want, like, I'd love for you to tell me more about your dad.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
give me an avenue where it's like okay to still talk about him.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I kind of start to feel like a broken record, or like, oh, here comes sad Susanna with like more stories about her dead dad. Like,
No, no.
you start to feel like a little bit like a Debbie Downer,
I
right?
hear, hey, I mean,
Ab-
sad Susanna, depressed Dana, whatever your alliteration is, but
right? Pick your alliterative name, grieving name, and like I feel like society tells us that you're allowed to be sad for like a couple months, like the funeral, and then like
mm,
whatever, and then like you're supposed to get over it and move on.
mm, yeah,
Like the fact that
I agree.
bereavement at companies is
Uh,
like a day maybe to attend the funeral for like
yeah,
a major loss.
terrible, terrible.
Like that's not enough.
I could have a whole episode on that. In fact, maybe I will in the future, but
You
yeah,
should. But yeah, so it's like I don't
yeah,
want to spend too much time thinking, but as you experience it, you're like, oh, this is all wrong.
yeah,
Like we as a society have not, which we'll talk more about identities, and there are societies that do a much better job at like supporting each other and collective grief and
mm-hmm,
mourning and what does that look like, and we're just like, capitalism, like get back to what you were doing before.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
Pick
it's
yourself up
just,
by your grief bootstraps,
yeah, so you can go and work and be productive again. It's like, it's
because
wild.
that's what matters. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's wild. That really resonates that like it seems like we've done grief all wrong. I'm actually curious how you've done grief, if you've been able to navigate it. And before talking about grief, I really want to hear about, I love that question. I'd love to hear more about your dad. I'd love to hear about who was he as a person? How has he shaped you? How has he, yeah.
Ugh, my dad, if you want to picture him for most of my life, looked just like Santa Claus. He started to gray really young. And so, yeah, like there's some very young photos of me where he's like salt and peppery, but like almost every single one of my memories, he's like white hair, white beard, like big belly like a bowl full of jelly, like the
Like
poems say.
Santa.
He played Santa many times in my life.
Oh,
Legend has it that when I was like 2 or 3, I was in his lap. I think there's a photo somewhere, and I'm like looking up at him really skeptically, like this Santa looks awfully familiar. But he was a really good man with a generous heart. He was a lifelong learner and
mm,
student. Like he always maintained an air of curiosity. People say like there are people that have never met a stranger.
mm,
Like that was my dad, which is funny. So he went
saying.
by kin, Kin,
Mm-hmm.
like family. Like that was his name. He was a junior, William Kinsel Baker Jr. But he went by kin. And yeah, I think he thought of everybody as kin. Like,
Wow.
if someone's a stranger, you just haven't got to know him enough. Like, he would make conversation with every waiter, every flight attendant, every customer. Like, and because he traveled all over the world for work, he would ask people where they were from as like a point of connection. And they'd be
Mm,
like, oh, from this country. And he'd be like, oh my gosh. And he'd name like a cuisine or a city or a place that he'd been. And they'd be like, how do you know that? He's like, oh, I've been there. I've eaten that. I spent time there. And the way that their face would light up
mm.
because someone was seeing them for who they were and not being like, that's weird. That's different.
Real connector.
Absolutely a connector, like that, like the strengths finder, like wins others over. Like that's
Oh,
absolutely him. He
yeah,
had friends all over the world, all
yeah.
over the world.
Woo.
And he was
Lots of
just
woo.
lots of woo, very jolly. And so he was like super high up in this company. He was like the head of international sales. But I think one of the things I liked most about him is that he always had time for me.
Mm.
I remember like writing about him after he passed. I would always think about, I didn't realize how much of an impact that had on me until I had my own like big girl corporate job.
Mm.
And you're running from meeting to meeting, like you're eating lunch at your desk, like maybe you have time to pee because things are just kind of wild, right? And I thought back to that, to how like when I was in college, I would call him every day, like in the middle of the day, like 2:30, 3 o'clock, whatever, just to chat, just to use him as a sounding board for like, I don't know, should I change my major? I'm really not sure. This class isn't available next semester. Like, what do you think? What should I do with my life? Like, not like I need something, this is urgent, just to chat every day. And every day he would pick up the phone and he would never make me feel like I was too much or like I was wasting his time. And so he really, like, I was definitely a daddy's girl
Mm.
through and through. We had a great relationship. He, you know how there's that like trend going around on social media of like, what radicalized you?
Oh, say
Um,
more.
yeah, people are like, what radicalized you? And it'll be like, oh, when this happened or that happened. I've been thinking about it of like, why do I believe what I believe?
Oh.
And talking about identities, when I was in eighth grade, it was like Thanksgiving break. I was at my grandmother's house in middle of nowhere, Tennessee, on a farm, doing my social studies homework and reading about Republicans and Democrats. Because it's like, they're just teaching you. And so, like, typically Republicans believe this and Democrats believe this. And typically, again, there's like, these are generalizations,
Mhm,
but they're
mhm.
like, you know, white, upper middle class, Protestant, or like evangelical, rural, like all the things, all
That
these
was like a typical
identities,
profile.
heterosexual,
Mm.
like, yeah, white male, the profile of like these people by percentage demographically tend to vote Republican. And I was reading this list and I was like, this describes my dad. Like he is
Mm.
all of these identities.
Mm.
And yet I know for a fact that he votes Democrat. And so I remember stopping what I was reading and looking up from the floor and being like, Poppy, just what I called him. This says that according to your identities, you should be a Republican. But I know you're not. Why is that? Straight up. And I remember that he looked at me, he thought about it for a minute, and he goes, well, sweetheart, I guess it's because I care about other people.
Wow.
And that was the extent of his answer. And I remember the feeling of like, oh, it's good enough for me. Like that was all I needed to know to be like, well, I care about other people too, so I'm good.
So what did that mean for you in terms of like Republican versus Democrat? How did that radicalize you? Was
Well,
care
I
the
was
big
like,
thing?
well, I'm sorry?
Was care the big defining factor for you?
Yeah,
Or was it
care about other people instead of just yourself.
like
It was about
social
looking outward. Yeah.
social systems? Okay.
Yeah. So it was really about like,
Mm.
sure, if I only cared about how things affected me, because I understood him enough to know that that's what he meant. Like,
Mm. Mhm,
if I were
mhm.
voting for my own interest only,
Mm.
then
Mhm.
sure, I would, maybe I'd vote. But he's like, but that's not the way he viewed the world. He's like,
Like
I care about how
fiscal
this
or those
impacts
things. Yeah.
other people
Yeah.
because it's larger than myself. And that really shaped my way of life moving forward.
Wow.
It shaped how I have gotten more and more progressive over time, but for the same reason, because I care about other people. And so, like, I feel like that hopefully gives you a small sense of who he was.
Yeah. Like just the
Um,
care sounds like it was such a big piece for him and just
yeah,
making you realize that maybe he's different than what you see on the outside.
yeah, yeah. He had a big heart, generous spirit, and super smart. He cared a lot about knowledge
Mm.
and learning and curiosity. And so, like, we can get to it later, but like one of the ways that I honor him now is through books. He had the
Mm.
most ridiculous library. And so the first, his first birthday. He and I are both Tauruses. Our birthdays are like a couple weeks apart. And so I did like a joint memorial for like a joint party to celebrate his first birthday being gone and my birthday. And I had all my friends bring a book that they loved, and we did like a mystery book swap where you like wrap it in paper and
Oh,
just, you know, because I was like, oh, he'd be so all over this.
that's such a good idea. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I
Wow.
had people donate to when he died. Like the book bans were like really going crazy,
Yeah,
remember?
yeah,
And
well, a big
so
thing.
I had people donate to like the library, I forget, the Librarians Association or something, to their banned book like fund specifically, because I was like, this is what he would want. Like he would want
Mm,
his memory remembered in a way that helped other people be able to continue learning.
mm,
So finding
wow.
ways like that that like
Yeah,
honor what he believed in and the
yeah,
things that he loved.
yeah, yeah. Tell me, I'm curious, we mentioned anticipatory grief. What is that anticipatory grief that you experience even prior to his passing, right? So
Oh gosh.
he, yeah, I think there's a lot there, but you can also keep it brief. But I'm wondering, what is the anticipatory grief that you feel like you experienced?
So he first got majorly sick when I was 23, but he didn't die until I was 34.
Mm,
So there was over a decade there
mm,
of waiting, watching, not knowing. Like there were times we weren't sure he was going to last a month,
wow.
that then turned into years. There were like lots of ups and downs, and he had health issues that got like progressively more complicated.
Mm,
And so there's a lot of layers there because the version of my dad that I just described to you, I feel like quote unquote died when I was
mm,
23. But it was ambiguous grief because I feel like I wasn't able to fully finish grieving that version of him
mm,
until 11 years later when
mm.
he died because he was still alive.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
still I grieved that version of him, and yet not completely because that felt weird. And then not only would I have to say goodbye to that version of him because I knew it wasn't coming back, because the first major thing that happened that like really changed things was a stroke, which changed his personality, it changed his sense of humor, it changed his overall demeanor, it changed his language, it changed it changed the sound of his voice.
Wow. And that happened at 23? Was that the thing
Yeah,
that okay.
it was pretty traumatic because I was the only one there
Oof.
when it happened. We were having a dinner unexpectedly, and I have a lot of mixed feelings around it because he was supposed to be driving. He was supposed to be on the road, but a storm, like a really bad storm, rolled through. And I was like, why don't we wait out the storm? Because I don't want you driving in that. Let's have dinner. We haven't, I was in college at the time. And so he was just happened to be like in town closer to me. We were living like an hour apart. So we didn't get that much one on one time. So I was like, it was great. I got the gift of like we got through the entire dinner. We had a lovely dinner. We talked about everything. And then
Wow.
like things started to get weird
Hmm.
when like the bill came. And I was like, what is happening? And so I started noticing signs until I realized like I'm pretty sure my dad's having a stroke.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm the one who's having to like pay the bill myself and call 911. And
Whoa.
he was like he was still like he didn't know what was happening, so he's like trying to wander out to the parking lot, and I'm trying to keep him from trying to start driving and leaving because he's in an active stroke. He doesn't know his name.
Oh, that's what you mean by like things started getting weird. Like
Oh,
that's
he
what was
started speaking in gibberish.
happening. Oh, yeah.
He was like staring blank, like a lot of
All other
typical like
things. Yeah.
the what is it, fast like stroke signs. I was like, oh
Ah.
god, okay. They couldn't figure out what was causing the strokes.
Mm.
So they kept sending him from like one hospital to another. He kept having more strokes. So like instead of trying to heal from the first one, they're trying to prevent more,
Oh,
which
wow.
eventually led us to getting his case accepted at the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. because no one could figure it out. So there's also this really scary period of just not knowing. You almost would rather know.
Yeah.
So we didn't know, like, is this it? Like, what is happening? At that point, I think he'd had 3 or 4 major strokes
Whoa.
by the time they finally diagnosed him with this, like, autoimmune disease that caused inflammation, that randomly happened to cause inflammation in a heart valve that was sending up clots to the brain that was
Wow.
causing the strokes. It was a weird, like, sequence of events type thing. But he also had a lot of other health issues that weren't really related to that also took a toll on his health, especially as the years went on. He was diabetic, type 2 diabetes, which he didn't really manage very well, which led to kidney failure. So he was on dialysis for 7 years.
Wow, that's so tough.
He eventually was diagnosed with Parkinson's, so he lost a lot of his mobility. He was diagnosed with dementia. And so you almost don't know where to start when you talk about grief with him, because the easiest thing to say is like, I miss my dad. And I do. But I also, like, which one?
Which version? Yeah.
Which version of him? Well, I miss pieces of all the versions.
And there was a stepped progression of all of the medical conditions that happened, that accumulated.
So it was like, okay, well, I miss the version of my dad that, like, was my sounding board and best friend. And I had to say goodbye to that version and get to know this new version. And I distinctly remember feeling, like, racked with guilt and talking to my therapist about, like, I don't know that I can confidently say that I love this man, because I don't know who he is. And it was so hard to admit, because I was like, he is a stranger. He is so different. And, like, logically, I love him. He's my father. But I don't know him at all.
Yeah.
So then you do the hard work of, like, getting to know him and loving him all over again. And then, something else would happen. So he would, like, lose a little bit of his memory, or he would lose his mobility. You know, the version of him that could laugh or travel, or the version of him that, there were many years where he was struggling with health stuff, but he wasn't in pain. So the much later years, he ended up having to move into assisted living because he was having trouble with his mobility. The Parkinson's was really starting to take a toll on his ability to walk, his ability to, like, feed himself, to, like, shower and, like, do things, like, basic day-to-day things for himself. And the pain, like, he started to feel a lot of pain. So then I'm grieving the version of my dad that, like, I remember the last Christmas with him. It was really bittersweet because it was December, right? And he passed in February, and we would, like, take turns with Christmas, and it happened to be like, okay, everyone's coming to my parents' house for Christmas that year, thankfully. But I know he didn't fully enjoy it. He wasn't fully present because of the pain that he was in. And so having to realize that there's a version of him that, like, is just struggling all the time, like, that was really hard for me. It's really, like we've talked about, it's complex, and it felt like one was added onto another, and so
compounded
it's
grief.
Compounded. I was also just tired. I remember someone came up to me at the funeral and was like, at least you don't have to say goodbye and hello anymore. Like, that was the last version.
Wow.
Like a silver lining of, like, that's.
How did you feel with someone saying that to you? Like, what was that like to hear someone say that?
It was after I gave my eulogy, which I think I told you I quoted you in, because I had never heard of anticipatory grief. And so in my eulogy, I literally talked about that process of having to reacquaint myself over and over and over again. And so I think it was okay because I brought it up first.
Yeah.
But they were kind of like, it's okay. I think it was someone trying to give me the alternate perspective of like, it's okay to feel some relief that you don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
That you can finally properly say goodbye rather than this like half goodbye. Right? And so I do think it's I don't know, it's a situation where it's almost like multiple identities. Like as I have memories of like multiple personalities almost, I think is what I mean to say. Like when I think I'll have like a memory of my dad at different moments of his life. And so the grief that comes with each of those personalities and versions of him is different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the grief I think is also at like different it's like levels of completeness.
Yeah. I mean, well,
Not that it's ever finished, but like
yeah.
the further because I've been grieving the version that I lost at 23, I've been grieving that one for longer, but it's not done. And so like I almost feel like I'm jumping back and forth
Yeah.
now post death and being like, oh yeah, I need to grieve this version a little bit more. Or like something comes up and then I'm grieving that version a little more.
I was wondering that. I mean, I'm wondering like how does that influence sort of maybe your grieving process or your healing process? How is it sort of just knowing that there are multiple versions of your relationship with your dad that change as a result of your dad's condition changing?
I definitely think that it helped lean into the understanding that grief is not linear.
Yes, for sure.
Because it's already not linear, and then add that on top of it. So, I talked about being an overachiever, and you've talked a little bit, on this podcast and to me about like your grief showing up as like what does someone who overachieves at grief look like? And it's interesting to
Yes.
me
Yes.
that that's not somewhere that my overachieving showed up.
Yeah.
Because I think I just literally didn't know. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how. And so because it was so different and it felt so random, I almost felt forced to let the grief lead.
What did that look like? I'm wondering. Like,
It just looks like letting it come when it comes. Just like I mentioned, going along for the ride. Some days that looks like true sadness at the things that he won't experience. Sometimes it looks like gratitude that I got 11 extra years with him that I didn't think I was going to get, even though those looked really different. Sometimes it looks like anger because so many of his health conditions were frankly self-imposed and caused by the fact that he didn't make taking care of himself a priority no matter how much I begged. And sort of letting whatever comes up at the moment be the experience of the moment.
Yeah.
And letting myself feel whatever I need to feel.
Yeah.
And knowing that, like, not judging myself if I am okay for long periods of time. Like, especially early on, I was like, shouldn't I feel more sad?
Huh. That's an
And then there
interesting question
were,
for yourself.
oh, yeah. I've been asking myself that since I was a kid,
Ah.
actually. As
Any
my
reason why,
family.
you think?
I think because, grief seems like sadness. Like that's what we're taught. Like grief is sad.
Mm.
Doesn't seem more complex. My family, especially my mom's side of the family, have been experiencing grief since before I was born.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
one loss after
Oh,
another,
yeah.
like over and over and over again. Um, Especially losses that are untimely, way too
Mm-hmm.
young,
Mm-hmm.
freak accidents. Like, my mom is the youngest of six, and most of her siblings died in their 50s.
Wow.
That is too young.
Mm-hmm.
Her dad died in his 40s. You know, one of her uncles in his 30s or 40s got like hit by a bus. Like, I've had cousins in my generation die of like freak brain tumors.
What was the impact on you of all of these different, yeah, the fact that like this was something that was just maybe more familiar to that side of the family? Like, what did that mean for you and your grief?
So when I was younger, I was about 7 when my mom's first sibling died.
Mm.
And that was the first time I remembered thinking, well, my uncle just died. My mom is so sad.
Mm.
I should be more sad.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, I think it was the compassion. Like, I guess I didn't know him as well. Like, I didn't have a close enough relationship. He lived in Colombia. I'd visited a few times, but I was younger. There was a period of time where we weren't able to go because things weren't super safe in the early 90s. So I guess because I didn't have that connection, it was hard to feel. And so even from a young age, I had this, I don't know if it's an expectation or just like an understanding of what I should and shouldn't be experiencing,
Mm.
whether or not that was correct.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, I think that this is what this experience is supposed to be.
It's just what was learned.
I mean, and
Yeah.
there's no one to tell us any different
Right.
because it's
Right.
also really hard, as you've learned, it's
Yes.
hard to describe grief. So
Yeah.
even if someone tells you differently, you're like, well, it's complicated. I feel
It's
like is the same is the thing that you just say over and over again. And so there's, I think, a level of normal that loss took on in my family and in my life because it felt like every couple of years someone else died.
mm, mhm,
And I always felt like I should be sadder every time.
mm,
Or that I felt like to be sad, I had to like really focus on my memories of that person. Even
mm,
though these people were all super important to me, which now I'm like, for someone who's like, I would call myself like a highly sensitive person and a very deep feeler.
mm. Yeah. Yeah.
So when I wasn't like distraught, like sobbing, be like, is something wrong with me?
Mm.
Because I'm upset all the time. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Just wondering why. Like, why is
like
that
I don't know. I don't know.
case? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
And so when my dad died and I had moments of being like, I'm shockingly okay right now. And then I had moments where I'm like, I am most certainly not okay. There was a little bit of relief that's like, oh, I'm not broken. Like I'm actually very upset. Um, I was, I think something that we don't talk about enough is even when you've been waiting for a loss for so long,
mm.
there's that waiting for the other shoe to drop for 11 years.
What a liminal space, the in between. Yeah.
You don't hear a lot about how you're somehow simultaneously ready for him to die and we'll never be ready for him to die. That's how I felt.
Was holding both.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that
Like,
was really
completely
challenging.
contradictory feeling.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm ready. He's struggling. He's in pain. Like, it's been such a long journey for him. Like, I am ready. And also, it didn't matter how much time had passed. I was never going to be ready.
Like, I'm not ready.
I
Yeah.
was in, my parents were living in Georgia at the time, outside of Atlanta. When he died, I was in New Zealand. I was on the other side of the globe.
Wow.
And it was like my worst nightmare scenario. I was going to visit I was going to come back from New Zealand and actually go to Georgia to visit them. So, like, in 2 weeks, maybe. I talked to him on a Friday, like a video call, and then um, I woke up to like 8 missed calls from my brother and my mom because of the
Wow.
time difference. And he was already gone on a Monday, like a couple days later. And he had just been released from the hospital. Like, something had happened, but he was doing much better. Like, he seemed really like he was doing well. I was showing him the presents I had bought him that I was taking him a couple weeks later. Like, he was excited because my dog Lucy was actually staying with them while I was in New Zealand, and so my mom had taken her to visit him
Mm-hmm.
at the assisted living, and so they had this cute photo of them snuggling in the bed. And I remember I finally got my mom on the phone, and she was like, "We lost your dad." And I will never forget or forgive myself that I just said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And my mom, like, gets mad when we say shut up.
Oh, yeah.
This is not a cursing friendly home. And to her credit, she, like, didn't even wince. But because, like, I legitimately did not believe her.
Mm.
And when she told me yes, I let out a howl that, like, reverberated around the entire house. Like, I didn't know that I was capable of such a sound, and I fell on the floor.
Yeah.
And I just remember being a little bit surprised by my own reaction
Mm.
because I was like, you've known that this was coming for years,
Mm.
and yet I was never going to be ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. It's like that innate part of you that was reacting to this news that just is, yeah, was there
Yeah.
all
And
along.
feeling like there's also a knowing that I don't know if people talk about, but like
Knowing and how.
a few days before I had started to pick because my dad was in the hospital and but he'd been in and out of the hospital 50, 60, 100 times, right? Like, him being in the hospital was not a thing. And yet I called my brother and I was like, should I cut my trip short? Like, what if this is the time?
Mm.
And he was like, Suze, like, we can't live like that.
Mm-hmm.
We've
Mm.
been at this for how long?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, he'll be fine. Like, we've had how many close calls? How many times have we thought this is it? And so I'm not, to be clear, I'm like not upset with him. Like, that's what I would have said to him.
Mm.
And I was like, but what if, like, maybe I should go back sooner? And I was right. There was some kind of a deep knowing that
Mm.
this time was the time. And so there's definitely some regret that I had to battle of, like, I was 2 weeks too late
Oh,
because I was
yeah.
on my way. Like, I had a flight scheduled, like I had a visit scheduled to see him, and I didn't get to see him one last time. But I think that happens to a lot of people, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that
And I
last
mean,
time.
yeah, I think I wonder, there's a lot. in your particular experience around grief and loss, around just your proximity to it and your distance from it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're with it, and like, we spoke a little bit earlier, you were like living with your parents for a short period of time, right?
Yeah, for 2 years, I moved
2 years.
back in. I put my career on hold because my brother was in college
Yeah.
because they couldn't deal. Like they
Mm-hmm.
needed another set of hands
Mm-hmm.
around the house.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was in active caregiver mode for a couple years.
Yeah. And then, like, in this moment, actually, it's like your brother's not in college. Actually, he's giving you permission to actually continue living your life
Right.
in distance. It's just I'm noting that as like, wow, there's this like distance from an active, ongoing loss, while and then there's like a proximity to it, like distance and
Yeah.
proximity. Yeah.
I still ended up moving my flight
Yeah.
specifically for that reason because they were like, well, at this point, like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, he's got, like, don't cut your trip short. But I was like, I don't want to be on the other side of the world grieving by myself.
Mm.
I want to be with my family. I
Yeah.
want to be here together in this moment, figuring it out. And so we like put together like a celebration of life really quickly. I
Wow.
got on the next flight possible, you know, wrote a eulogy on the plane, caught COVID on the flight,
Oh,
by the way, for the first time ever, which was
jeez.
impressive. So I felt
The
like I was
timing.
dying, and yeah, that's part of that memory that will never. I was like, why am I feeling progressively worse every hour that this flight
And you're
it's
like,
like a
is this
crazy long
grief
flight?
or
Or I'm like, am I dying? And I
oh,
go to urgent care, and this doctor's like, yeah, you have COVID and you have to isolate. And I was like,
oh,
my dad's funeral's tomorrow.
wow.
She was like, all right then, like mask up and don't hug anybody. So I couldn't hug anybody at my own dad's funeral. I was like, I will say my speech from way up here on stage and then I'm going to bounce. So
Jeez.
like there was another layer of not feeling like I could fully grieve
The
with
distance.
people
Yeah.
of physical distance,
Yeah.
even though like I was there, but I couldn't like I'm a very
Yeah.
touchy-feely person. These people
Mm-hmm.
wanted to share this with me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I had to be like, for your own sake, stay over there.
What?
Distance, more distance.
Yeah. What help? Like, I'm wondering. We've talked a lot about the distance. We talked about a lot about like just the actual like event itself, and I'm wondering, and then also like the celebration of life itself. I'm wondering, is there anything that's actually made you feel connected in your grief, or connected in your coping, or even if there has been any like healing parts of things, like has or healing rituals, has there anything that's helped decrease that distance for you, or made you feel connected with other people as you're kind of holding and processing grief?
Um, Interestingly enough, I've been able to be there for people who have since lost or in the process of losing their fathers.
Mm, yeah.
And so just it, in a little bit of there's a strong connection in essentially what's a pay it forward moment
Mm,
of like, this is really hard and no one knew what to tell me. Um, so many people, like I told you, just like didn't know what to say, didn't know how to help, didn't know how to show up. And so to be able to say, I know how hard this is and I know what you're going through, that was enough to almost help bring my own healing in being a support to others, being able to talk to people who have also been in a situation of anticipatory grief, who've had, parents with chronic illnesses. I've met a lot of people who've lost parents. I have met very few people who were on that journey for like 10 years.
Yeah.
That feels very unique. I remember I had two managers in my corporate job, and they had both lost their parents really suddenly and really young. Their dads. And I remember us talking about how like we weren't sure who had it better off, which I know is kind of a morbid conversation to have.
They say more? What do you mean?
Like, there was a part of me that feels like I kind of wish that it had happened suddenly and that I could remember him the way that I wanted to remember him.
Hmm.
It felt more like a clean break rather than this like extended, compounded grief for a decade. It's like dragged out, right? And they're like, yeah, I get that. And also, I don't know if you told me that I could have 10 more years, even if they were different. It's like those things that you think about
Yeah.
hypothetically.
Yeah.
They didn't ever meet these different versions of what their dad could be like,
Yeah.
but they're like, it's a little bit of like grass is always greener, but also in that like there's no right answer.
Yeah. It's all hard.
And so it is all hard.
Yeah.
And so like it's a roundabout way of answering your question is like honestly just finding people that were in the same boat, which is why like I didn't really join any grief groups. I didn't do any of that. Like
Fair.
I met grief where it showed up.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to let it take up as much space as it needed in my life. I tried to make sure that I was talking about my dad and honoring my dad as much as possible, thinking about memories and stories that I had of him at various versions of him
Mm.
and my memory of him, right? I don't know if it made it better or worse, but I probably objectively worse. But grief changes as we change, and I got divorced the same year that I lost my dad. And that brought up a lot of memories of like some of my last photos with my dad where he's like, well, we're at my wedding.
Oh.
And so it's like, well, now how do I feel about these photos? Where I'm in a wedding dress that don't really want those photos up anymore necessarily, but like
Mm.
my memories of him on that day are sacred to me because for so long I thought that he wouldn't be able to have a father-daughter dance with me. He wouldn't be able to walk me down the aisle. And he was. I got that gift, and I'd always thought of that as like something I was so grateful for. Like, thank goodness I got married like right before things start to get really complicated.
Mm.
And yet, then that marriage ended. So what does that mean for that gratitude and that experience, and how does that affect the way that I think about those things?
But also totally like cumulative grief for sure and cumulative
Yeah,
loss all in one
yeah.
year. Mm-hmm.
And then I think about the fact that like currently really grieving the fact that he won't be able to meet my current partner, who actually reminds me so much of him,
Mm.
like so much. My current partner has a lot of the best parts of my dad
Mm.
without some of the core failings, I think, of my dad that led to him like minimizing some of his health risks and minimizing the ripple effect that ignoring his own health would have on the rest of his family. To the point where, like, God, they would be pals. Like, they
Oh,
would so get along. And I'm sad that they'll
yeah.
never know each other. I'm sad that if I get married, he won't be there when it feels like it really matters. That he won't see this version of me that is really happy and more like myself than I've ever been. More honest with myself about who I am and what I need, and just like so authentically me. I have moments like as my business grows and expands and evolves, I have a lot of moments of like, man, I wish you could see this. Like, I recently went and helped my mom pick out a new car. And the one that she happened to pick, it was like the one on the lot is beautiful and it's my dad's favorite color. And I was like, oh my God, he would have been all over this. He would have been so excited for you.
Oh.
Like little things where just like, dang it, like I don't even care which version of him showed up right now. It'd be nice if he were here, even though it was more, especially at the end, it was more work for us. It was constantly stressful. It was really difficult. But you still want him there.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the complex. I feel like that's the complex nature of grief, right? Is like you're holding there's never a right time for it to happen. I think it really, like, as you mentioned, like it's the difficulty and the pain and the hard parts that you're wanting relief from, don't outweigh necessarily the creating new memories and like just the longing, right?
Yeah.
Even though both are there, right? Even though they like hold, like they're both there. Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things that really got me was my brother's speech at the funeral. Because when my dad died, my brother's wife was like 8 months pregnant with the family's first grandchild. So my dad knew he was going to be a grandpa, but he didn't get to meet him. He like, a couple months later, right? He was born, and Daniel, my brother, talked about how much he had learned about being a father from my dad, and how upset he was that my dad would never get to watch him be a father. And it's that like inability to create new memories that often creates the largest like hole.
Yeah.
Right? That's always really gotten me, because I know, you're starting a new chapter, growing his family and like carrying on my dad's last name and what like, so like he got really choked up and almost couldn't finish his sentence, and I was just like, oh God. And my brother is not a crier. He is not a big feeler. So like the fact that he couldn't like get his sentence out, I was like, oh, he's really feeling it through the lens of being about to become a new father while grieving his own father at the same time. Which is like interesting for me to see as you talk about how much identities shape how we grieve. I was like, oh, he has a brand new identity that's shaping the way that he grieves. It's so different from the way that I am grieving.
Yeah. Well, and different also, I guess, your family, like seeing your brother grieve in that way is different than seeing the way that your extended family was grieving, of just like, this is okay. And this is another loss in our family. And like maybe it being more something they were used to, even though it was sad, versus seeing your own immediate family going through this. And yeah, I'm sure. Actually, that is a question I wanted to ask you as we sort of think about wrapping up. I'm just wondering, I'm wondering how grief and maybe healing or coping has influenced or shaped your identities, if at all.
It's interesting. I think this is the hardest question that you ask, because it's an ongoing process. With so many people around me grieving, it has often felt difficult to be allowed to grieve
Mm.
because it's like, well, what makes you so special? Like everyone's grieving, which I know is not like a healthy way to to think about things, but it's like we're all supporting each other, and if you're grieving and I'm grieving, then like who's supposed to help hold the grief?
Mm.
What happens when we're all grieving?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you're grieving your mom and I'm grieving my dad, but you're also grieving your brother and I'm grieving my cousin and I'm so the pro there is that we have shared experiences and we can try to help hold things for each other and we feel like understood. The con is there's not a whole lot of like extra capacity, like emotional capacity
Mm.
to show up for each other,
Yeah.
right? It's like it's kind of like when you're sick and then your partner or your kid gets sick and you're like, "Okay, but now we're both sick. So who's going to who takes care of who?"
So you're like, who's the outside? Is there an outside person then who comes in who's,
Right. Like
yeah.
I don't know what that's like. And so
Mm.
I think the part of that that has shaped my identity is like I feel like I'm always the fixer and when there isn't
Mm.
someone else, if someone can't show up for me, then like the default is like, well then it's you. You're the one who helps. You're the one who
Mm.
finds the extra capacity.
Mm.
And that's the daughter of immigrants, eldest daughter, overachiever. Like that's where it comes out. So like my dad left behind a brother who has no family, really. He lives alone. Um, I'm in charge. When he needs something, I handle it. All of his like last will and testament, like things he needs with his bank, questions he has, like people checking in to make sure he's okay, like that's me.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if I don't, no one else will.
Mm.
And losing my dad was a huge deal for him. He was his best friend.
Yeah.
Like that's what he had in
Mm.
this world. And so where that shapes my identity is like I moved from one caregiver role to another in a different way. I'm always like, okay, who do I take care of next?
Wow. Reminds me, have you
Because
ever seen
they're,
Encanto where the eldest daughter, and she's just like, I gotta hold it all together. And she's just like,
yeah, you mean the movie that's about the Colombian eldest daughter that was
yeah,
written about me?
yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, first time I saw that movie, I was like, this is rude.
yeah. Well, and I wonder, like, there is a lesson in there as she's singing her song. She's like, I can't hold it all together. Like, I can't.
Yeah,
Like, it feels like it's always has to be me, and also like it can't always be me.
can't
Yeah,
always be me.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I guess
yeah.
my last question for you kind of is like, what do you wish people could know about this topic? Like, what do you wish? I don't know. What do you wish that you could tell yourself, or what do you wish that, yeah, if you could change something about that, what would you change?
Mm. I definitely bring it back to like what we talked about at the beginning. Like, I would want people to know that it is not bad to ask someone about the person that they've lost.
Mm.
Like, if they don't want to talk about it, they won't. But it feels less awkward to be like, oh, like makes me a little sad. Like, I don't think I want to talk about it right now, than to be like, hey, so who wants to hear a story about this person that I've lost? Because I really feel like talking about him.
Mm.
Like, so creating space for people to keep their memory alive,
Yeah, yeah.
I think is something we should do more often,
Mm.
even if it feels like awkward or random, because that was a really beautiful way for me to process emotion. And doing that as the person asking, I'm telling you, you have to be okay with the fact that most likely the other person will cry.
Yeah.
And we have to be okay with emotion
Yeah.
and sadness and tears
Mm-hmm.
and know that like those are a necessary and healing part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Like I usually feel better after I've had a good cry about my dad because it's like, oh, like I got to feel it for a little bit and it was hard, but like it made him feel more real. It
Mm-hmm.
brought him more present for a moment. Um, I'll tell you a quick story to wrap. Like my birthday, right after he died, so my birthday was in May, he died in February. My mom surprised me by ordering flowers to me, but signed, like had the card, it was like a printed card, written as if he had sent it to me.
Wow.
Because she knew him well enough to know exactly what he would say,
Mm-hmm.
exactly how he would sign it off. And I had a moment, she was visiting me, so she saw me get them. And there was a level of confusion of like, did he somehow do this ahead of time? Because it was like, what, how did this happen? And so like there was a little bit of confusion and also of just like I was just so overwhelmed. And when I saw the note, because it was so accurate, it was short, but I like heard it in his voice and I just broke down. I just sobbed for like a couple hours. I was like, I just need a minute. I like locked myself in my room. And my poor mother was like, did I do bad? Like,
No.
oh no. She was like, I thought I was doing a sweet thing. And I was like, no, 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 you did. You did. And I'm actually really glad that you did that. I just wasn't prepared
For
for that.
that. Oh.
But I have no regrets. Like
Yeah.
I am grateful to have been able to feel those feelings and to feel him so close,
Mm.
so nearby in a way that I wasn't expecting. But it was like, but you have to be okay with the fact that what sometimes what we need is for people to be able to open the door to some of those hard feelings
Yeah.
and be able to stand in those hard feelings with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the hardest things to do without being like, it's okay, like, don't stop
Mm.
the emotion. Just sit with us in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I want people to know
Yeah. Yeah.
the most.
Yeah. I hear that. Truly, like the almost like the lesson from Encanto with the oldest daughter of like she doesn't have to hold it alone and people can open up the
Yeah.
conversation to be able to talk about how hard it is to hold it all together. Yeah. Or be the fixer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Learning how to ask for help when
Susanna.
I need it.
Yeah. I'm really grateful for you sharing so much about just your own grief journey, your own story about your dad. It's been actually really nice to just hear about your dad and different
Oh,
stories about him and about your mom too, and like your whole family and your brother too. And just hearing
yeah.
how you've all moved through really not just the past 2 years, but like the last decade and a half. And I just appreciate you sharing so much of yourself. I'm wondering as we wrap up and if there are people who are like, yeah, I really resonate with like just the holding that Susanna's had to do of like holding these different parts of this and or like, can they reach out to you if our listeners wanted to connect to you, if that's okay with
Sure.
you? And yeah, okay. And so what's the best way for them to connect with you think?
Um, Probably Instagram or Threads,
Okay.
which is at Untangling Ideas. My life, including my grief, has made me really empathetic and a really good reader of people.
Mm,
Someone who can really kind of hold things for people and understand and kind of help them untangle how they feel and how they're thinking. And so it's interesting. Some of the gifts that have come out in personal life have also woven their way into my business and the way that I
mm,
do business and kind of my perspective on life. So yeah, that's probably where that would show up the best and where we could connect.
Okay, you heard it from Susana herself. Definitely reach out at Untangling Ideas on either IG or on Threads. Susana, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing everything that you shared with yourself. I'm really grateful. Thanks.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Untethered to Rooted. Untethered to Rooted is produced and hosted by me, Dana Daugherty. Original music was composed and performed by the ever-talented Daniel Dickinson. Thanks so much to our guests for sharing with us today. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. And follow us on social at Untethered to Rooted. And if you didn't like it, what podcast? Dana who? Until next time, take and give good care.